everyone. Welcome to Measuring What Matters, Website Metric Fundamentals for IR Success. Wait, let's just make sure. Does it look like everything's going through okay?
Yep.
Great. So we have a lot to cover. Hopefully have some time for Q&A at the end, but probably not. So basically what you'll learn today is key website analytics terms and how they relate to each other. We'll be using Google Analytics mostly for this because that is kind of the gold standard and it's free. So if you don't have Google Analytics on your website, then we will actually help you set it up for free. But yeah, you should definitely have that. We'll be going through the key reports to check. So if you're going in there and seeing 10 different menu options, just know that we'll solidify them. There's only a few you actually need to look at. And then, and then the key metrics that you can use to optimize your investor relations. So, just quickly, some questions that you can throw in the chat. One, what is your role within your company? And then two, do you have analytics on your site? If so, what tools are you using? And then three, have website metrics influenced your site or marketing decisions?
I can
Curious
answer.
what, yes, would you like to
I was gonna say I
answer?
can answer these for
Yes.
Sorby. So I'm Sorby's managing director, which means I also oversee our marketing and PR. And until Brittany started collaborating with Sorby, the answer was no, we did not have any analytics on our site. Now, however, we are using Google Analytics thanks to Brittany's help in setting that up. And as far as have website metrics influenced site or marketing decisions, it's a relatively new update that we're using Google Analytics, but the metrics have been super interesting, and there's definitely a lot of changes that we can make to our site to make it more optimized and I think more helpful to the people who are visiting it. So, and I know for quite a few of our portfolio companies that use website metrics, it's incredibly helpful in tracking what sort of messaging helps move the needle or what sort of information are investors looking for.
Yeah, and we're actually coming out with a new Sorby site soon, so I'm excited to see the metrics improve for Sorby coming up soon.
Exactly.
So a bit about me. So I am Brittany Carter. I'm the CEO of Smart IR Marketing, and my background and where I was an analyst before, but website really metrics really started coming into play when I started working with a lot of celebrity CPG brands. The person managing the website when you go and buy your shampoo or what have you online, that was me. And so this is where I really honed in and started learning a lot about website metrics and really just using them as a critical decision piece maker for everything that we did. And came into working with microcap companies because I realized, yes, this is important for J.Lo and Kristen Bell and Nicole Kidman, but it's also important for microcap companies. So 94% of investors say an active investor relations website is helpful when evaluating a company. Not to mention 65% of investors use IR websites to get information. And the thing that I think people really discount is your website is the only digital medium where you 100% control the narrative, right? So even on a Twitter or something, you could have someone reply, they can block your account, what have you. This is the only place where it is completely within your control. You can put whatever you want, whatever format, whatever character count. This is your space. And if you construct that space well, I'm already seeing an increasing number of, when I look at like where people are coming from, they're coming from LLMs a lot now. So if you want to become one of the, top companies that shows up when someone on chat is like, who's the best microcap, whatever company to join, that's what you definitely want to make sure you have a really well structured site with authoritative, crawlable content. And
Well, and I
then,
think
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add that I think it's interesting that so many investors use a website to evaluate the company because that means that pretty much every investor or every potential investor that's considering making an investment is going to the website. So if you have a website that's not user friendly or if it doesn't have the information the investor is looking for, that's a terrible first impression. You could have a great company, but if you have a bad website, an investor might choose to look elsewhere.
Yeah, well, and I think, ultimately, like, yeah, if you don't have the right information, maybe they're like, oh, we don't want to move forward. And this all came from the Brunswick 2022 Digital Investor Survey. It's really interesting to see how investors are increasingly just going all digital for their sourcing of information. And if they're really high up in the investor funnel and they don't know a lot about your business, then just having that opportunity to improve how much they, are able to find on the website and increase the probability of them looking at your corporate presentation and what have you, that's super powerful. So, I was trying to figure out, there's a lot of different terms here that may seem totally foreign. I mean, user, I think, is pretty common, but session, engaged session, event, it's a little wonky. So at first I was going to come up with some really weird, like you go to the gym and get a gym session analogy. And then I realized everyone on this call has probably bought something online. So we're going to buy some Nikes today. And I'm going to talk you through what it looks like in GA. So this is what it looks like in GA. And then I'll walk you through what it looks like shopping for Nikes. And then most importantly, what it looks like for an investor going to your website.
And GA stands for
Google Analytics. Yeah, so Google GA4 is the new version of Google Analytics. You can't even use the old version anymore. So if you have the old version, you probably just haven't been getting data for the past few months. But yeah, so you have the user, session, engaged session, and then you have events, and that's kind of their hierarchy. And then you can also have key events, which are events that you define properly. So it'll hopefully all make sense by the time we get through this scenario. So we're shopping for Nikes. You're shopping for Nikes. Let's say the first time you find them, you like click on a blog post and you see these new Jordans came out. You think it's super cool. You click on the page, it takes you to the Jordans product page. You get sticker shock at how expensive it is, and you close it out within 10 seconds. That is a session because I'm the user, and then it created a session. And so let's say then a few months down the line, you see an ad for those same Jordans and it's 20% off. You're like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I would be interested in buying them if they were 20% off. So you click on that. And then the default for a scroll event, which you can see under the engage session, is 90% of the page. So like, let's say I scroll down to look at the reviews. You can also customize that. You can also look at it with heat mapping, but long story short, that's how that scroll event got triggered because I engaged with the site. So that's why it's an engaged session because I engaged with the site. I look at the reviews, I'm still just kind of iffy on it, close out the page. Black Friday comes around. I'm ready to spend some money. I want to buy those Nikes. So I'm going to go to the home page and I see my Jordans on there. I click on the Jordans from the home page. So now I viewed a page, I viewed the home page. I clicked on the Jordans from the home page. So now I've triggered a click event. Now I'm viewing another page. I'm viewing the Jordans page. And now I'm going to add them to cart. So that key event is adding the Jordans to the cart, right? So that's something where, if I'm just browsing the site, that says that I'm doing events, I'm a session, I'm an engaged session, I'm an active user, but me doing a key event like adding to cart, now Nike knows she really wants those Jordans, right? And so they're going to treat me very differently. So how this looks like for your investor relations website. So let's say they hear about your company from an analyst coverage page and it links to your site, they click on it. Well, this happens a lot. They're just going to go, they're going to find your ticker, they're going to copy it, they're going to go to whatever tool, the Bloombergs, the, Yahoo, whatever of the world, and they're just going to put it in there, right? Because that's how they digest the information. Um, and since they were there less than 10 seconds, that's just a session. So you're going to have a lot of sessions. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're not somewhat interested, but it means that there was nothing on the page that they're like, oh, wait a second. I kind of want to like spend more time on this page and learn about this company through their website rather than through my portal. So then let's say you now get an investor relations targeted ad. Like Smart AR runs ads. You see an ad about a business saying, near-term production or whatever. Oh, I want to learn more about, I remember this company. And it's a really exciting web page and it has really interesting information. And you scroll through that whole page. Now I've triggered the event scroll. Well, let's say it's just not good timing, what have you, or you look at it and you're like, this is interesting. I'm going to wait till see like if they make progress with this one thing they're saying. I want to see what the drill results end up being, whatever it is. So let's say they then set up a news alert on their whatever tool they're using, the Bloombergs of the world, and then they get an alert that you had some great drill results. Like, oh, I'm very intrigued. I want to spend a bit more time there. So now they just type in your company, they go directly to the like homepage or whatever. Then they click, let's say they then go to the investor landing page, or maybe they go to click on the page as a corporate presentation, what have you. And then they download that corporate presentation. So now I've been triggering page views, I've been triggering clicks, and then I triggered the key event of downloading the corporate presentation. So that's an example. Like key event for e-commerce is like add to cart, started checkout, made a purchase. Key event for investors is going to be anything that indicates they're very interested in investing. No one reads corporate presentations for fun, okay? No one
Or
reads
financials,
financials.
yeah.
Yeah, no one's like, if you're getting people that are downloading these things on your site or like going and viewing them extensively on the, like, let's say you have the corporate presentation on a page, like that's something they're actively interested in investing. That shows high intent. So key events are showing high intent for whatever your desired outcome is. And in the case of Nike, me buying Jordans. In the case of IR websites, investing in the company.
Right.
So the other thing I wanted to call out, I put where people were coming from for our Nikes and IR example, but I didn't put it here because I don't want to overwhelm you guys. The other thing is there's going to be a layer to each session of what channel did they come from. So a referral is someone that referred you in. So in this case, it was a blog post, might be an analyst site for an IR website. Paid social, if you're running an ad on, Twitter or what have you, and you click on it, it's going to be a paid social channel. And then direct, that means they already probably know about you, or sometimes they even look at an ad and they're like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. Like I do that sometimes. I see an ad of something, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and then I go out of Instagram or whatever and I type it in like on the website, right? So that would be an example of a direct. Whitney, have I explained everything in a cohesive manner? Are there any questions?
I think so. So with channels, what is that? How can I use the channel information to, while I'm looking at the analytics around these different events? Like, do different channels lead to different events?
Sometimes, and that's like a good question, and we'll kind of answer a bit more by looking. We'll skip a little ahead and then we'll come back. So when we're looking at these channels, we can look at how many events per session. So like for example, here this had 31 like key events, and these are very low numbers. By the way, to be clear, none of these are Smart AR clients. These are like random screenshots I grabbed on offline because I want to protect client privacy. But like here you can see like high events per session for some. And then like this one, even though it was lower events per session, really high key event rate. So like clearly the direct channel is their best, channel. But then, organic social, even though they had high traffic, they had very low key events. So it kind of shows that you can't just look at the raw big number at the front, right? You have to look at like what is the quality of that traffic. Direct was almost always going to be the best traffic. And and honestly, I run ads. paid traffic is always going to be like the less engaged traffic, right? Like they're literally clicking on an ad. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad traffic. It just means that you have to work that much harder to get them excited about being on the site and sell them on it. It's much easier if someone's already met you in person at a conference and they're just coming directly to your site after, they're already a little sold, right? Or if they're coming from an authoritative source.
Well, and I think that goes back to the slide we were just on previously of the user journey. Like the user journey is not, I hear of the company, I immediately go buy the Nikes or go buy the stock. The user journey is typically much more drawn out, and there's going to be multiple steps that the user goes through in that decision-making process of whether or not they want to execute the purchase.
Exactly. All right, great. So now we're going to get into the actual reports. I know you already got a little sneak peek. I know this is a little messy. I found that some of the GA navigation looks like the one on the left. You might have the one that looks on the right, like the one on the right. They're the same reports. It's just a different way of visualizing it. So if you have access to Google Analytics, I highly encourage you to just like open it and look at these. And we will absolutely send you this recording. So if you're furiously writing this down, don't worry, we will send you the recording. But basically, the user acquisition report and traffic acquisition report are very, very similar. The big difference is the user acquisition report is focusing on you, the user, whereas the traffic acquisition report is focused more on your individual sessions. So what happened at that time. So that's helpful for understanding like user level is more like the quality of the traffic that you're getting from the different channels, but then session level is more like real time, right? Of like what's happening. Like if I do optimizations on the site, I don't like I'm going to want to mostly look at the session level data for that period, right? And they're very similar though, very, very similar. And then you have events, pages and screens, and landing pages. And this is where you're really getting into, okay, they're on the site, but like, what are they looking at? Where are they looking at it? Right? And we'll get into that in more detail as we go through. Um, so this is the user acquisition report. So you have users, new users. New users, like just because it's a returning user doesn't mean they're an active investor in your company, right? Like we said, there was multiple sessions before that person even did a key event that indicates that. But it is helpful for understanding, all right, is this traffic that's already engaged with the company before? Like let's say you run a new marketing campaign and it's all returning users, like, okay, then it's clear, and retargeting is important, but it's like, well, if we're trying to get new people in the door, right? And then engaged sessions per active user is also helpful for understanding, like, because you can have a user, but if they never really engaged with your site, it still counts as a user, right? So looking at that, and then you can also look at the event counts, but I usually look at most of the data more at the session level. I think this is just helpful for understanding the user mix of like new versus returning mostly, and then how many sessions, right? So you can see here, like there was a quite a high number of like return engaged sessions from referral. And then the other thing I wanted to very quickly note in terms of like users and user data that's helpful is there is a user attributes like demographic section, but I want to be clear, I would not trust any of the data except for country. Like the demos of like the age and what have you, it's really unreliable. And so, especially if you have low traffic, please do not, I don't even use that with sites that have, like hundreds of thousands of site visitors, right? Like, because it's just not that reliable. But the country is because that's using your IP address. So I will use this to figure out where my traffic is coming from geographically. A lot of the companies on this call are, they're listed on certain exchanges that are within respective countries. You want to be looking at this. You want to make sure that your campaigns are targeting the right people in the right countries, right?
Makes sense.
Yep. So again, this is where I spend more time in the actual events and stuff. You can look at it on the user side too. It's, tomato, tomato. But basically here I'm looking at, okay, how many sessions happened during this time frame? And where did they come from? So on the left-hand side, we're seeing, this many people came from organic social, this many people came from paid social, paid search, what have you. And then looking at, okay, what was the quality of that traffic, right? So we're looking at the counts. And then we want to look at, okay, so direct, obviously amazing engagement time. Again, that's going to happen every time. But you have that. And then events per session, how many clicks and page views did they do when they were there? And then just general event count and then key events, right? So it looks like direct was the overwhelming majority of key events. This is clearly a company like I don't even, this is anonymous random data. It's very clear this company has a loyal following because there's so much direct that's triggering key events. That being said, organic social, which I was kind of hinting at before, organic social is a lot of like your existing investor base that has some key events, but it looks like organic search is doing well. So you're just looking at like, okay, where is performance going? What's doing well, what's not? And I would love to deep dive into channels, but we are already, oh my gosh, I need to hurry through this. We're going to do a channel deep dive as the next webinar, so stay tuned. I'm going to have to go a little fast because I'm looking at time and we're pacing very, very over. So the other is event counts, right? So this is looking at like how many of certain things happened. And yes, like page view and everything's interesting to look at and click, but honestly, I'm mostly just looking at key events, right? So the PDF downloads, the corporate presentation download, things like that. You want to figure out what's important, what's something on your site that indicates that investor's super interested and focus on that, right?
Yeah, that makes sense because if I, as an investor, I may not spend a ton of time on a company's website because, to your point, I have other sources for information like Bloomberg or other channels. But if I'm downloading a corporate presentation, then even if I only spend a few seconds on the website, that's indicative that I'm seriously interested in learning more about the company.
Yeah, I think I always say time's a little bit of it's good to look at the engagement time, right? Like I was looking, we've increased like 50% since we did this redesign, which is a great metric, but it's not the end all be all because there's so many other sources of data. So pages, I just put pages and landing pages on the same slide because they're very similar. The only difference is pages is showing overall traffic, overall views, what have you, whereas landing pages is giving you a better idea of that's where they started. So what would like did it keep them on the site, right? That's kind of the question I'm answering with the landing page of did it keep them on the site? Whereas pages is this a page they care about and did they spend a lot of time with it? I think it's also important to landing pages can also let you know like if I'm like, "Oh, I need to prioritize this page. This must be the most important page." But that's the page that all the ads are driving to. Of course, that's going to be the highest traffic page, right? So and the homepage, usually it's like the homepage, the investor landing page for whatever campaigns you're running are the top two and everything else is pretty small. But just lets I'd rather spend a ton of time working on the homepage and the landing page than perfecting like a project page that 2% of traffic goes to, right? So that's where these pages and these reports can be helpful. The other thing is dates. So on the upper right-hand side, you'll have and you see it in the other screenshots, the dates. It's really nice. You want to compare like month over month, year over year, when you had a campaign running, when you didn't, if you did a certain marketing push, a news release or publication, a conference, that's going to let you compare the metrics from a time perspective, right? And then back to our handy dandy investor funnel. I wanted to look at the metrics on a per investor funnel level. And Mark, sorry, I have to go very fast through this because we're very short on time. But basically, sessions and like what channel they came from is the awareness level for me, right? And it doesn't even have to be an engaged session. Like we talked about, half the time they're just grabbing the ticker and moving on with going on to whatever platform. They're still aware of your brand at that point. They're aware of your company. Discovery, I'm gonna look at was it an engaged session? What page views did they look at? What clicks, right? And then evaluation's kind of a in between of discovery and invest, but invest, that's what we were talking about, those key events, signing up for your newsletter, corporate presentation, or financial downloads. Those are the high intent key events that you really, really want to be optimizing for. And then loyalty is going to be, again, that kind of like new versus returning users. Email, most of the people on your email list are either active investors or are like quite engaged with your company. And then organic social is also typically where you're going to see a lot of loyal users. Was that explained? Okay, what? I'm going fast now because we're short on time.
Sorry, I asked too many questions.
No, it's fine. But okay, and I'm sure you're saying this is all well and great, right? But what does this mean if I focus on this and try to improve the site? And the benefit is, and we actually did a full redesign for TalkFan since, but through some simple UX tweaks through the metrics that I saw, we actually tripled the engagement rate. So that means everyone that's coming to the site, 3 times more people are actually like, oh, there's something on this page that I'm really interested in seeing versus just clicking on like finding the ticker and leaving. And then the other thing is through running ads, we were able to actually increase that key event rate from 1.7 thousand corporate presentation views to 5.7 thousand, right? So very measurable, number-based way at looking at did these marketing efforts improve the metrics, and we're hoping they'll improve even more now that we have this beautiful new site. So just a bit of inspiration of if you guys take the time to focus on these, you can really make your website work and do more work for you and improve performance. So I know we covered a lot. I would say the top 3 things is look at the sessions by channel. So that traffic report to be clear, like which channels are driving traffic for you. And bonus points if you look at the engagement rate for each of them or like the key event rate, right?
And for
Uh,
us still learning all the vocab, channels are things like, did they come from a referral? Did they come
yes.
direct? Okay.
Well, and to be clear, we'll do a channel deep dive in the next webinar. So please sign up because that's going to be a lot more insightful. But you should still at least look, and it's pretty intuitive. You can ask ChatGPT to explain all of them to you. And then yeah, if you can look at the engagement rate, because you also want to look at the quality of traffic. And then look at your top site page views, right? So like where should you be dedicating time to optimizing your site? Because I guarantee you're going to look at it and there's only going to be 2 or 3 pages on an investor relations site where people are spending most of their time. It's not going to be an even distribution where you're conflicting priorities. And then last is the key event rate, right? So are you converting most of your visitors into high intent prospective investors? If you have less than 100 sessions, please do not look at the rates. Because like I just to give you a perspective, I used to only consider a test statistically significant if it had 20,000 like events or whatever, like on the like when I was running ecom. So if you have less than 100, please don't look at the rate and take that at face value. But I would just look at what's the actual count, right? In that case.
Yeah, and the idea is that if you start measuring it, you can start improving it.
Exactly. So homework, get access to your analytics if you don't already. Identify your top 3. So the top 3 that we listed before, we'll put a follow-up email highlighting those along with this recording. And then identify a top action item to improve. Get those key event rates up. And cool. Okay, I got it 11:29. So I have just enough time to tell you about the next webinar. If you were looking at those marketing channels, like, I don't know how to interpret those. I don't know what they mean. Yes, you can chat GPT your way through it. You can also join the next webinar where we will be running on a deep dive of the marketing channels and just better understanding how to measure those, how to think about them. So like I said, like I always assume that paid traffic is going to have a lower engagement rate or what have you. Like it's never going to beat direct. Same with like, what have you. So I'll talk you guys through kind of how you should be thinking about the different channels. You'll learn a bit more about where your website traffic is coming from, what's working, and how to track more of the right visitors. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, thank you for teaching us, Brittany.
Yes, of course. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. And then if you just have a lot of personal questions, or maybe you have another analytics platform, whatever it is, please feel free to book a call. I'm like more than happy to help. Obviously, like I'm running this agency, but there's also just this element of I'm really passionate about helping all these issuers get the data they need. Like I, I hear, oh, I spent $1 million on marketing, but I don't know like what of it actually worked. like I'm trying to help people figure out what the metrics are so that they can understand what parts are working, what parts aren't, so they're utilizing their marketing spend efficiently. So
Love it. Well,
yeah,
thanks again. Have a good day, everybody.
yeah. Thanks so much, everyone.